We actually talk about Nehemiah chapter 9 when we teach separation in the Be in Health for My Life retreat. We talk about it there because the Israelites started seeing the generational iniquities of their forefathers, their grandparents, great-grandparents, that they got lost in the wilderness, and they started seeing those same murmurings and complainings, those same problems starting to redevelop. We all know this story. Nehemiah chapter 9, they separated themselves from the strangers, which means they got into their own little home groups. They got in their family units. They separated from the foreigners. They separated from the people they were trading with. And it came back into just them, and they started repenting. Because they started looking at all the things that their forefathers had done, and all of a sudden they were repeating it. And when you read Nehemiah chapter 9, it is an amazing read of God's loving kindness and goodness to a bunch of rebellious, ungrateful, whiny children. And we all fit in that category at some point or another. However some of you, I'm glad the lights are a little brighter because we haven't fixed those yet, so I can't see all the snarling faces at me. But we are. When you look at Nehemiah chapter 9, they were listing all the things that, God, you did this for us, and you saved us, and our feet didn't swell, and you kept our shoes working, and you fed us food, and yet we still didn't follow you, and we were rebellious, and you didn't destroy us. And then you gave us this, and the next series of verses are all these blessings that God did for the children of Israel. And then it goes again, yet we didn't pay you any attention. And it says in there, but because of your goodness, in the midst of our rebellious nature, in the midst of us not making you Lord of our lives, with us being our own mindset, without following you the way that we're supposed to, because of your goodness and loving kindness, you preserved us and still blessed us. I think back in our, we'll go for BC days. And I'm just going to say before church, not before being a Christian or before Christ. We're going to say before church, because sometimes our before church and our before Christ may not be the same stories. Because some of us barely got into church, let alone Christ. In our BC days, how many of us would sit back and look, in the midst of all of my life, God preserved me in spite of my rebellion. And then you have those of us who might have been prodigals. We grew up in church. We understood teachings. We understood the things. And yet then we decided, well, you know what? That's all well and good, and Scripture's nice and pretty and all, but I don't know if I want that in my life. And we decided to live our own life, and we stepped away from church. We stepped away from what we knew was godly. We stepped away from where God wanted us to be, and we found ourselves in the pig pen. And what did He do? He ushered us right back in like the father of the prodigal son, and reclothed us, repositioned us as children and sons and daughters of God. Killed the largest calf they could find and had a party when we came back home. Why? Because of His goodness.